It's just after 9 on a Tuesday morning. Somewhere in an open-plan office, in London or Berlin or Bangalore, a customer service rep opens her laptop. The first ticket of the day is already there. Read, summarized. A draft response is waiting underneath it. She didn't ask for any of this. It happened while she was on the train. There's a particular kind of revolution that doesn't announce itself. No factory closes. No headline runs. No executive stands up at the all-hands and says, "From now on, the software will decide." It begins with smaller things. A support ticket already read. A sales lead that arrives with a score next to its name. A meeting that ends with the action items already written down, by no one in particular. Nothing about it looks like a turning point. That's what makes it one. The desks are still here. The badges still beep at the door. The company still calls it productivity. But beneath the surface of an ordinary office day, something has shifted in the wiring. Artificial intelligence is no longer just helping people get work done. It's moving into the systems that decide what work is, where it goes, how it's measured, when it's escalated, and who ends up holding the bag. Once it lives in that layer, it stops behaving like a tool. It starts behaving like a manager. And the first thing you lose to it may not be your job. It may be your judgment. For most of us, AI at work still wears the costume of an assistant. You open it when you want help. It writes the email, summarizes the meeting, finds the document buried somewhere on the shared drive. The shape is reassuring. You ask, it answers. You decide. But the more interesting story isn't unfolding in a chat window. It's unfolding inside the unglamorous machinery where the work actually lives. The CRM, the ticket queue, the project board, the approval chain. The systems most people barely notice. The systems that quietly decide what counts as a task, who owns it, and when it's done. That's the layer AI is now moving into. Microsoft is wiring autonomous agents into its business software stack. Salesforce calls it digital labor. Asana sells AI teammates. Workday is building agents for HR and finance. The labels don't matter much. The pattern underneath is the same. AI is migrating from the edge of work into the plumbing of it. A chatbot helps a person write. A workflow agent decides what gets written about. A chatbot summarizes a complaint. A workflow agent classifies it, routes it, escalates it, drafts the reply, and updates the record the company will treat as the truth. One assists the worker, the other shapes the worker's day. That's the line being crossed. Not the line between human and machine. We crossed that long ago. The line between assistance and authority. The first wave of AI at work didn't arrive on a memo. It arrived in the back pocket. The job had been speeding up for years. Generative AI was just the first tool that could keep up. By 2024, Microsoft and LinkedIn were reporting that most knowledge workers were already using generative AI at work, often before their employers had a policy for it. The phrase that emerged was shadow AI, tools the company didn't choose, used on data the company didn't always know was being shared. Workers wanted relief. Companies wanted control. So organizations moved to bring AI back inside the walls, for security, for compliance, for regulated data. But governance is never only about technology. Governance is also about behavior. Once AI is pulled inside the official stack, it stops being a private productivity hack. It becomes part of the company's operating system. It starts to see things people used to explain in meetings. Where the handoffs slow down, who closes work fast, who quietly doesn't, and which teams are running on knowledge that has never been written down. At first, this looks like clarity. Sometimes it is, but clarity inside an organization has a way of turning into something else. When work becomes visible to software, it becomes measurable, comparable, optimizable. And once it's optimizable, sooner or later, someone redesigns it. That's the moment. Productivity quietly turns into power. It's tempting to think of management as the act of giving orders. Most of management isn't that. Most of it is quieter. Deciding what's worth attention, translating mess into targets, watching for delay, assigning responsibility, deciding what counts as progress and what counts as a problem. For a long time, that work belonged to people. Managers carried it through meetings, status updates, performance reviews, and small decisions that never appeared in the official record. But when the workplace becomes digital, more of that managerial work can move into software. A system doesn't have to call itself a manager to do management's job. If it ranks the cases, recommends the next move, tracks completion, flags risk, updates the record, and feeds the dashboard the executives stare at on Monday morning, it is already setting the conditions of the day. Not every AI agent today is a manager. Many are oversold. Some are demos in a suit. But the direction isn't random. The more work moves through software, the more coordination moves with it. And once coordination moves into software, control can move with it. The company that owns the workflow doesn't just own a tool. It owns the place where work becomes legible to the organization. And the place where work becomes legible is almost always the place where work eventually gets rebuilt. We've already seen a rougher version of this story. It just played out somewhere we were trained not to look too closely. Before the office worker saw it, the driver saw it, the courier saw it, the warehouse picker saw it. People whose working day was already being translated into routes, ratings, acceptance rates, scan times, and performance scores. In their world, software didn't help management. Software was management. It assigned the job, tracked the route, measured the pace, set the incentives, decided who got more work, and who got cut off, sometimes for reasons no human could explain. That's where the term algorithmic management came from. The OECD describes it as software, including AI, that automates work once done by human supervisors. European regulators have already started to push back, calling for more transparency, more human oversight, and more ability for workers to challenge automated decisions. But the lesson doesn't stop at the platforms. It's a lesson about what happens when software becomes the layer between a person and their work. First, the system watches. Then it suggests. Then it standardizes. Then it automates. Then it reorganizes around itself. Drivers and couriers saw this fast and hard. Knowledge workers may see it more politely, not through an app barking turn-by-turn directions, but through an enterprise tool that decides which client matters this week, which lead is worth a call, which support case jumps the queue, which candidate's CV reaches a human, which delay is now officially a risk. The office version is cleaner, better dressed, less obviously coercive. It does not feel like a boss. It feels like a dashboard. But the logic is the same. Picture a customer support team, one of the clearest frontiers of this shift. Before AI, the work runs on judgment. A rep reads a ticket and notices the tone. She remembers the customer from 3 months ago. She remembers what happened last time. She knows when a polite message is actually a warning sign. She walks over to a colleague to check whether to refund or escalate. She understands that some tickets aren't really tickets. They're a relationship, a promise that didn't land, a context the system can't see. Now drop a workflow AI into the same platform. The ticket arrives summarized. The customer's mood is labeled. 3 similar past cases sit underneath. A draft response is waiting. If the case crosses a threshold, it escalates itself. The record updates quietly. The dashboard shows resolution time per agent, backlog movement per team, throughput by hour. Some of this is genuinely good. It saves time. It cuts the dull work. It helps a new hire act like a veteran on day 3 instead of month 6. It gets answers to customers who would otherwise keep waiting. But it also moves where judgment lives. Less of the work depends on what the rep privately knows. More of it depends on what the system has captured. Less of the process is informal. More of it is standardized. Less of the rep's value stays invisible. More of it is rendered as a number on a screen, somewhere upstairs. She still works. The system increasingly reads her while she does. The same shift is showing up across sales, HR, and project management. Leads scored before a conversation. Resumes filtered before a human sees the person. Slipping dates becoming a status color before they become a story. Sometimes the system is right. Sometimes it catches what humans miss. Sometimes it kills work nobody wanted to do anyway. But even when it helps, it changes the center of gravity. The worker isn't only using the tool anymore. The worker is being read by it. From the company's side, the appeal is impossible to overstate. Modern organizations are full of friction nobody enjoys. Approvals stall in someone's inbox. Information evaporates between tools. Meetings end without a single decision sticking. Knowledge lives in calls, in tickets, in people's heads. To a business, that isn't merely messy, it's expensive. AI agents promise to make the company finally legible to itself, more coordinated, less dependent on one person's memory, faster to react. That promise is powerful precisely because the pain is real. But useful is not the same as neutral. The same layer that removes friction can quietly remove discretion. The same visibility that helps a manager can become pressure on the person being watched. The same dashboard that finally explains the business can become the slide deck that justifies the next reorganization. AI doesn't have to replace a worker to weaken them. It only has to make the worker less necessary to understand the work. Most leverage at work hides in things that are difficult to measure: experience, context, judgment, trust, institutional memory. Knowing why the procedure on paper doesn't survive contact with reality. Knowing which delay is a fire and which one is just process. For decades, that knowledge has lived in people. Imperfectly, inefficiently, but powerfully, because if you wanted it, you had to ask the person who had it. Workflow AI is engineered to extract more of it. A meeting becomes a transcript. A transcript becomes a summary. A summary becomes searchable knowledge. Knowledge becomes a recommendation. And eventually, the process becomes a piece of automation that runs without the person who taught it. That chain can make a company smarter. It also moves ownership. Once knowledge is extracted into software, it can be reused without the person who built it. Once a process is mapped, it can be standardized. Once it's standardized, it can be automated. And once enough of it is automated, an executive somewhere can finally ask the question that used to be unaskable. How many of these people do we still need? None of this is destiny. A lot of agentic AI right now is theater. Some demos are strategy decks pretending to be products. Some agents are chatbots in a better suit. Gartner has warned that a meaningful share of agentic AI projects may be quietly killed before the end of the decade, for cost, for unclear value, for risk no one wants on their record. The transition won't be tidy. Some teams will get their afternoons back. Others will get a new layer of dashboards on top of the old ones. Some workers will feel finally unblocked. Others will feel, accurately, that they're being watched in a way they weren't before. Some companies will use AI to support people. Others will use it to do more with fewer people. Often, both, at the same company, at the same time. The future of work isn't going to arrive as one big system. It's going to arrive as 1,000 small product decisions inside ordinary software. A feature toggled on. A workflow automated, just to see. A team that, 6 months later, is quietly half its old size. Technology doesn't need to be perfect to shift power. It only needs to become part of the workflow. That's why the famous question is the wrong question. Will AI take my job? Isn't useless, but it stops short of the part that matters. The deeper questions are about ownership. Who decides what the work is? Who holds the memory of how it really gets done? Who knows when an automated recommendation has shaped a decision? And who is allowed to disagree with it? This is where the future of work stops being a story about technology and becomes a story about power. Because work, in the end, is coordination. And whoever owns the coordination owns more than software. They own the pace, the priorities, the visibility, the memory, and, in the long run, the structure. The next boss may not look like a person. It may look like a workflow. It may show up as a helpful assistant. It may summarize your meetings, route your requests, recommend your next move, and, very quietly, teach the company how to need you a little less every quarter. The future of AI at work probably won't begin with replacement. It will begin with assistance. But once the assistant is inside the workflow, it can become something else. It can become management. And the most important question of the next decade may not be whether AI can do your job. It may be who owns the system that decides what your job is.